Settle the pillows, dim the screen, and let the room grow quiet. Tonight, we slip into a gentle history of magic and witchcraft. Less a jump scare, more a warm lantern on a winding path. Magic, in so many ages, began where uncertainty did. In the dark before dawn, in a storm-tossed night, in the fragile places where stories soothe. We won't teach rituals, only explore how humans have reached for comfort and meaning through charms, symbols, and whispered hopes. Think of this as a starlit museum walk, where every exhibit hums with the heartbeat of people who wanted protection, luck, and love. Breathe softly. We're traveling far, but we'll move at a bedtime pace. Curious, respectful, and kind. Ready? Let's begin at the beginning. Long before writing pressed memory into clay, people believed that symbols could persuade the world to bend. In caves and open plains, hunters sketched animals not just to admire them, but to practice success, the earliest sympathetic magic. Later, in Mesopotamia and Egypt, magic and religion were neighbors, sometimes housemates. Incantations begged for protection from illness, amulets guarded infants, and priests kept knowledge in precious lists and scrolls. A carved eye, a written name, a spoken formula, each promised to steady life's shaking table. In these early civilizations, magic wasn't an edge case. It was practical hope with rules, recipes, and careful hands. For every danger, there was a charm. For every unknown, a story. All of it, in the quiet hours, was meant to make the night gentler. In Greece and Rome, magic threaded through ordinary life, even as philosophers argued about reason. You might consult an oracle, leave an offering to a hero, or slip a charm into your cloak before travel. There were curse tablets, thin sheets of lead inscribed with tight letters, folded and placed where spirits might notice. The Greek magical papyri compiled spells, hymns, and invocations, a library of hopes and protections. Meanwhile, laws tried to keep malicious sorcery at bay, drawing lines that wobbled between sacred and forbidden. A healer's herb could be pious or suspect, depending on the day, the intent, and who was watching. In candlelit rooms, people rearranged the world with words and signs. Magic remained not a spectacle, but a quiet technology of the heart. As empires shifted, so did the boundaries. Early Christians distinguished miracles from magic, yet the faithful still wore amulets and invoked saints for protection. In the Islamic Golden Age, scholars translated, debated, and tested knowledge. Astrology became a mathematical craft. Talismans were studied as natural virtues shaped into metal and stone. At the House of Wisdom, numbers and stars spoke a common language. Across trade routes, ideas rode alongside spices, paper, and ink. Recipes for inks that didn't fade, for inks that would. A physician's diagnosis might include prayer, diet, and timing. Magic and science interlaced like filaments of a lamp, separate strands glowing together. People everywhere sought safety in a cosmos they felt was responsive, patterned, and maybe, if approached respectfully, kind. In medieval Europe, grimoires, spellbooks, sat quietly in libraries and cupboards. Some were scholarly, written in careful Latin, filled with angels, seals, and psalms. Others were humble, copied and recopied, mostly recipes and protections, the sort of magic that mended fraying lives. People chalked symbols above doors, carried herbs to ward off fever, and hid little charms inside walls. The witch, in this period, lived mostly in story. a figure at the forest's edge, more warning than neighbor. Clerical magic and folk magic overlapped like shadows. Monks charted the hours. Midwives watched how the world breathed. A coin turned over, a name spoken softly, smoke drifting upward, small gestures that made the day feel navigable. The night felt less lonely when your home wore a secret blessing. Then came fear. Between the 15th and 17th centuries, Europe and parts of the Atlantic world convulsed with witch hunts. Manuals like the Malleus Maleficarum fanned suspicions. Courts blended rumor with theology. Neighbors became evidence. Most accused were ordinary people, women and men, caught in storms of scarcity, disease, and anxiety. Numbers vary across regions and scholars, but the weight of grief is not in arithmetic. There were confessions under duress, testimonies shaped by terror. It's important, in any gentle telling, to pause and honor those lives. Witchcraft as a legal crime gradually faded, yet the stories remained, reshaped by memory and caution. When the panic passed, communities kept the quieter traditions, the ones that calmed children and consoled the sick. The lantern of compassion must burn brightest here. Beyond Europe, rich constellations of practice flourished. In West Africa, systems like Ifa carried intricate divination, poetry, and ethics. Across the Americas, indigenous healers used plant knowledge and ceremony to mend bodies and relationships. Under colonial pressure, traditions braided together: voodoo, candomblé, santeria, hoodoo, acts of resilience and community care. Here, magic meant survival and identity, altars and drums, language and lineage. Each practice grew from place, from ancestors, from a careful reading of the living world. It's not a single story, but a tapestry, each thread deserving respect. The idea is constant. Humans sought balance with the forces around them, asking for protection, luck, and justice. Listen closely. You can hear a heartbeat, steady, ancestral, patient, carrying memory through the night. Back in village lanes and port cities, the cunning folk, local healers and charmers, kept busy. They located lost items, eased fevers, and inscribed protections over doorways. Sailors carried talismans to quiet the sea's temper. New mothers tucked tiny tokens into blankets. A cat's cradle of customs, iron nails at thresholds, berries at windows, bells that sang away misfortune. Magic wasn't a grand spectacle. It was household maintenance, the emotional kind, sweeping dread out with the ash. These practices changed with fashions, cracked under scrutiny, then mended themselves again. In the weaving of everyday life, a charm was simply another stitch, small but strong. You didn't need a tower full of books. You needed a neighbor who listened, a recipe that comforted, and a story that warmed the room. The Enlightenment praised reason, yet the 19th century hummed with spirits. Seances offered table-tapping comfort to grieving families. Theosophy reached for universal wisdom. Ceremonial orders, like the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, studied symbolism, ritual drama, and inner transformation. Tarot settled into familiar imagery, a portable theater of archetypes. Some figures courted controversy and spectacle, others explored quietly, writing dense books for readers who loved labyrinths. Newspapers quivered with exposés and wonders. Between skepticism and belief, people still wanted meaning, still looked for patterns that felt like guidance. The century's inventions, telegraphs, photography, made the invisible seem newly possible. If messages could cross wires in the dark, who knew what else might travel, softly, from mind to mind? In the 20th century, new paths blossomed. Wicca formed in mid-century Britain, drawing from older folklore, ceremonial magic, and nature-focused spirituality, then spread and diversified. Neo-pagan traditions grew, emphasizing seasonal cycles and reverence for the earth. In the late 20th and early 21st centuries, a wider reclamation of the term witch emerged. Feminist, queer, and culturally diverse, often symbolic of autonomy and resilience. Pop culture stitched broomsticks to streaming shows, while bookstores filled with myths retold. Online communities traded correspondences and history notes, found solidarity, and shared caution about respecting cultures and consent. Through it all, one gentle thread persisted. People using symbols and stories to feel more at home in their own lives, to map meaning onto days that move too quickly. What, then, is magic's lullaby? Psychology suggests rituals can steady anxious minds, focus attention, and create a sense of control. Placebo isn't a fraud. It's the body's reminder that belief shapes experience. Folklore is a shelter we build together, a shared language for hopes we can't quite quantify. In history, magic sits beside medicine, religion, and art, sometimes collaborating, sometimes arguing, always telling us what people feared and loved. We don't need to settle every claim to learn from the longing. The wisdom is in the wanting, to protect a child, bless a journey, honor ancestors, and face the dark with grace. Turn the page with a quiet hand. The night is softer when stories keep watch at the window. If this bedtime walk through magic's history eased your evening, tuck a like beneath the pillow and subscribe for more gentle journeys. Share in the comments, which tradition or moment warmed your curiosity? Cave paintings, cunning folk, or modern revivals? We read every note, like lanterns along the path. Next time, perhaps we'll dream through the sleepy history of alchemy, or wander the myths of the moon. Until then, rest well, and let good stories keep the dark kind. Good night, traveler. See you under the next bright chapter of the sky.